They said it would make her beautiful. It made her rot. This is the story no cream will ever warn you about. Linda Okafor was 27, a banker in Lagos, ambitious, intelligent, and determined. She had always been meticulous about her appearance, but she had never felt truly beautiful. Growing up, she had watched lighter-skinned girls in her neighborhood receive compliments effortlessly. At school, teachers praised them, boys fawned over them, and friends envied them. Linda had always been conscious of her darker complexion, and that awareness had only grown sharper in adulthood. At work, the pressure was constant. Walking through the gleaming lobby each morning, Linda would smile politely as colleagues greeted her, yet she noticed the subtle differences. Younger, lighter-skinned women drew attention with a casual laugh or a perfectly styled outfit. Promotions, compliments, invitations to after-work gatherings, they always seemed to gravitate toward them. Linda worked just as hard, yet somehow, she always felt invisible. At home, it was worse. Her boyfriend would scroll through Instagram lazily on the sofa, his thumbs moving quickly over photos of models, actresses, and influencers. One evening, he paused on a photo of a light-skinned woman, perfectly groomed, smiling at the camera. "See this, babe? Fine, fresh, light-skinned. Linda, maybe you should try a little change too," he said, laughing. Linda laughed too, but her smile was forced, brittle. That night, she stared into the mirror in her bedroom. Her skin was perfectly normal, yet in the reflection, it appeared flawed, dark, unworthy. A few days later, she found herself walking into a boutique tucked away in a narrow Lagos street. The air smelled faintly of perfume and cream. Shelves were lined with bottles and jars promising miraculous transformations. The shop assistant, a young woman with skin so light it seemed to glow under the boutique lights, handed Linda a small jar labeled Skin Glow Supreme. 2 weeks, the assistant said with a knowing smile, and everyone will notice. You'll shine brighter than you ever imagined. Linda hesitated, then opened the jar. The cream was thick, smooth, and fragrant. She took it home that evening and applied it to her face, arms, and legs. The initial burn was faint, almost comforting in the way it tingled, making her believe the change had already begun. Days passed. She woke each morning, comparing her reflection. Slowly, her skin appeared lighter, brighter, smoother. She took selfies, posting them online. Her Instagram likes doubled. Comments poured in, "Wow! You look amazing. Your glow is unreal." Even her boyfriend, previously teasing, began calling her "my yellow pawpaw," complimenting the freshness of her appearance. Her boss remarked on how radiant she looked in a meeting. Linda felt an intoxicating rush of attention and approval. By the end of the first month, Linda was fully committed. She ordered more jars of Skin Glow Supreme online, desperate to accelerate the process. Night after night, she would rub the cream into every inch of exposed skin, massaging it carefully into elbows, knees, neck, and face. The itch came quickly and violently, but she ignored it. The slight burning sensation became part of her ritual, a confirmation that the cream was working. 3 months in, cracks began to show. In the bathroom one morning, Linda noticed a dark bruise spreading across her inner thigh. She quickly covered it with foundation and moved on. At lunch, a colleague whispered, leaning close. "Linda, your knuckles, they're black, like charcoal. What happened?" Linda laughed nervously, but inside, she was panicked. Her skin was no longer uniform, her face was lighter, yet her elbows, knees, and knuckles remained dark, a patchwork of tones. Yet she refused to stop. Every compliment, every social media like, every glance of admiration reinforced her obsession. Soon, the damage escalated. The cream became stronger with each order, the nights longer and more meticulous. Blisters appeared on her forearms. Small burns flared across her legs and face. Her sheets were stained with blood from scratching itchy, irritated skin. Still, she continued. Validation had become her addiction. Then came the true horror. One night, Linda woke to a burning itch. She scratched until her fingertips tore at her flesh. She stumbled to the mirror, and what she saw made her scream. Her skin had thinned dramatically. Veins traced like dark rivers across her arms. Patches of red and gray spread unevenly across her face. The next morning, she tried to attend a client presentation. Her foundation slid off her face, revealing a bubbling, peeling patch of skin on her cheek. Gasps echoed through the room. Phones were raised. God forbid, is that her face melting? One client muttered. Linda dropped her documents and ran, tears streaming, heels clattering on the polished floor. She locked herself in the bathroom and pressed her hands to her face. It was raw, blotched, painful. She could barely recognize herself. By the time she reached the hospital, Linda was pale and trembling. The doctor examined her tests and spoke gravely. Your skin cells have been destroyed, he said. The chemicals have eaten your natural defenses. If you continue, infections will spread. If you stop, the damage is permanent. Linda wept, clutching her bandaged face. The once celebrated glow had become raw, scarred, and gray. Weeks passed. Her boyfriend stopped visiting. Friends avoided her. She had lost her job. Alone in her apartment, Linda sat on the edge of her bed. Curtains drawn, a single jar of Skin Glow Supreme rested untouched on the dresser. With trembling hands, she recorded a video. They told me I'd glow, she said, voice breaking. But this isn't glow. This is rot. Sisters, brothers don't bleach. She lowered the camera, her face scarred, one eye swollen, lips cracked, blotches of gray and red spreading across her cheeks and forehead. The mirror reflected nothing but damage, regret, and horror. The jar sat beside her, a silent witness to the obsession that had destroyed her. She sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers trembling as they grazed the jar. The faint, chemical scent of the cream lingered in the air, sweet, toxic, almost mocking. She brought it close to her nose, inhaling deeply. The smell made her gag. Her stomach turned. Suddenly, a wave of nausea washed over her. She stumbled toward the bathroom, clutching her throat. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror made her stagger backward. Her skin wasn't just scarred, it seemed to pulse, almost alive, the veins underneath crawling like tiny rivers beneath paper-thin flesh. She collapsed onto the cold tile, shivering violently. Every nerve in her body screamed. In the silence of her apartment, she could hear herself breathing, sharp, ragged, uneven. Her mind raced with the memories of each night she had rubbed that cream into her skin, each time ignoring the burning, the itching, the warnings. The pungent smell of the cream filled the room again, taunting her. She glanced at the jar. For a moment, an insane thought crossed her mind, to just use it one more time, maybe it could fix her, maybe it could reverse the horror. But her hands shook violently, and she knew it would only make things worse. Her phone buzzed. A notification. She picked it up, hands coated in trembling sweat. A comment flashed on her latest selfie, "You look amazing. Keep glowing." She dropped the phone. It clattered against the floor, the sound echoing in the empty apartment. The words mocked her. She wanted to scream at the world, at herself, at every person who had told her she needed to be lighter, brighter, better. Then, from the corner of the room, she noticed it. Her reflection wasn't alone. The shadows cast by the flickering streetlight outside seemed to twist and move, forming shapes that weren't hers. A darker version of herself, a distorted, hollow-eyed figure, mimicked every twitch, every shiver. It leaned closer, whispering in a voice that was hers but not hers. "You wanted to glow, now you rot." Linda screamed, covering her face with her hands. The shadows stretched across the walls, crawling, whispering, reminding her of every choice she had made. The smell of the cream grew stronger, suffocating, invading her senses like smoke. She fell to the floor, curling into herself. The apartment felt alive with her own horror, as if the walls, the mirrors, the jars of cream were all mocking her. She realized, in that suffocating darkness, that nothing would ever be the same. The world would see the scarred, blistered skin she had created, and no apology, no regret, could erase the consequences. Hours passed. The city outside moved on, oblivious, while Linda lay in the ruins of her obsession. The jar of skin glow supreme sat beside her like a predator, waiting for the next victim. She knew, in that bone-deep fear, that bleaching wasn't just cosmetic, it was a trap. A slow, poisonous trap that had almost claimed her life. And as dawn crept through the curtains, painting the apartment in pale, unforgiving light, Linda whispered one final warning to herself, to anyone who might ever listen. Never touch it. Never chase the glow. Or you'll end up like me. Her voice trembled, breaking against the walls. She sat motionless, the room silent except for the faint hum of the city outside, the smell of the cream lingering like the memory of a nightmare she could never wake from. Linda brought the jar closer to her nose again, inhaling the pungent, sweet chemical scent. Her stomach churned violently. She gagged, dropping the jar. It rolled across the floor and hit the wall with a dull thud. She doubled over, coughing, tears streaming down her scarred cheeks. The doorbell rang suddenly. Panic shot through her. She hadn't expected anyone. Her heart raced as she struggled to her feet, stepping over the jar. Each step sent sharp pain through her thin, blistered skin. Linda? It's Nurse Amaka. The doctor said you need to be checked again, a calm but firm voice called from the doorway. Linda froze. Nurse Amaka had been assigned to her after the first hospital visit, a professional, no-nonsense nurse who had treated her injuries with patience and quiet concern. I'm fine, Linda croaked, backing toward the bed. You're not fine, Nurse Amaka said, stepping inside. She carried a small medical bag, her eyes scanning Linda's arms, face, and legs quickly but gently. You can't keep hiding from this. The damage, it's worse than you think. Linda's hands shook as she turned away, sniffing at the lingering smell of the cream again. It was addictive, almost hypnotic, a reminder of the glow she had chased. Linda, I just wanted to look better. Just a little lighter. Nurse Amaka knelt in front of her, voice steady but full of gravity. Nurse Amaka, look at your skin, Linda. This isn't better. This is chemical burn, infection, and permanent damage. You wanted glow, but your body can't take this anymore. If you keep smelling it, thinking about it, touching it, you might not survive the next month. Tears welled in Linda's eyes. The jar of cream gleamed under the dim light like a cruel trophy. She wanted it. She hated it. Her mind spun between desire and fear. Nurse Amaka gently took Linda's hand, guiding her toward the bed. Nurse Amaka, you need to let it go. You need to let me help you. We can treat the burns, the infection, but you have to stop. Completely. Linda's gaze fell on the jar. Every muscle in her body screamed to grab it, just one more time. She shook her head, her tears mixing with the raw, blistered skin. She finally nodded, shaking, coughing, nearly collapsing onto the bed. Nurse Amaka helped her lie down and carefully cleaned the worst of the blisters and burns. The smell of the cream still hung thick in the air, almost suffocating, but the calm presence of the nurse gave her a strange sense of safety, like a lifeline she hadn't realized she needed. Every second spent thinking about that jar was a second wasted. Attention, approval, love, none of it came from bleaching. It came from surviving, from choosing life over destruction. She closed her eyes, the weight of everything crashing down, the beauty standards, the Instagram likes, the teasing, her own obsession. Exhausted and broken, clarity finally emerged. She promised herself silently, no more cream. No more chasing glow. Only survival. Only healing. Days passed. She stayed mostly indoors, recovering, letting the antiseptics and creams Nurse Amaka had given her work slowly on her burned, raw skin. The sensation of the blisters stinging, the faint smell of healing ointments, became a reminder of how close she had come to losing everything. She avoided mirrors as much as she could, afraid of seeing the patchy, scarred reflection of her former obsession. Eventually, she stepped outside. The sun was harsh on her sensitive skin, making her flinch, but she walked through the city streets with cautious determination. People stared, whispering, pointing, but she kept her head high. Every glance was a scar on her pride, yet she refused to shrink back. She carried small tubes of healing cream with her wherever she went, applying them carefully, a ritual that reminded her daily that she had chosen herself over destruction. At night, the faint memory of the sweet, toxic scent haunted her, a whisper in the back of her mind. Sometimes she dreamed of the glow she had chased, of lighter skin, of validation. But each morning she woke, brushing the nightmares away with the cooling antiseptic, a tangible symbol of her survival. Weeks turned into months. The scars remained, a permanent map of her past mistakes, but she learned to live with them. She avoided any products that promised light skin or instant beauty, focusing instead on gentle, healing creams that nurtured what remained of her skin. Her routine became almost meditative: cleanse, apply ointment, rest, repeat. Every application was a reminder of life reclaimed, of obsession resisted, of survival over vanity. She learned to smile again, cautiously at first, then with real warmth. Friends who had drifted returned slowly, seeing her not as a glow or a shade, but as Linda, resilient, human, and painfully real. And while the memory of the jar lingered in her mind, the temptation dulled over time, replaced by something stronger, the knowledge that no cream could ever define her worth. The blisters had healed, but the lesson had not. She would carry the scars forever, a living warning. And every time she applied her safe, healing cream, she whispered to herself, no more glow at any cost. Survival was the only glow that truly mattered. As months passed, her skin slowly regained strength, but its color darkened naturally, richer and deeper than before. At first, she felt a twinge of insecurity, remembering the days when lighter skin had seemed like a passport to admiration. But over time, she embraced it. She began to see beauty in her natural tone, in the strength her body had shown, in the story her scars told. Self-love became her new glow, far more radiant than any cream could ever produce. One afternoon, while running errands, she ran into her former boyfriend. His eyes widened when he saw her, the scars, the darker skin, the confident posture. He smirked, a mocking, familiar tone in his voice. "You look different." "Not exactly the glow I expected," he said, laughter lingering like a knife. She didn't flinch. She let the words pass, smiling calmly. The hurt she had once felt transformed into something else: power. "Better to be alive and real than obsessed and broken," she said softly, walking past him without another word. He could mock her, but she no longer needed his approval. Years later, Linda married a kind, understanding man who loved her wholly, scars and all. Their wedding was a celebration not of flawless skin, but of life, resilience, and authenticity. Friends and family admired the glow in her eyes, the glow of someone who had survived, learned, and finally loved herself. Inspired by her journey, she began a campaign for women across the country, speaking openly about the dangers of bleaching. She hosted workshops, created social media campaigns, and encouraged women to share their stories. She showed images of her scars, her peeling skin, and her natural dark tone, telling audiences exactly what she had learned. That no cream could replace self-respect, and no amount of approval was worth self-destruction. Women started writing to her, sharing their own battles with bleaching, their regrets, and their journeys towards self-love. Some were still in the grip of obsession, others were recovering. Linda became a symbol, a living warning, but also a beacon of hope. Every time she applied her healing cream, feeling the cool touch on her darkened, healthy skin, she whispered again, no more glow at any cost. Survival, self-love, and authenticity were the only glows that truly mattered. Her story traveled far beyond Lagos, reaching young women, mothers, and teenagers alike. And in every face that stopped bleaching because of her warning, Linda saw herself, not the girl who had chased light and almost lost everything, but the woman who had chosen life, scars, and all. The jar of Skin Glow Supreme remained tucked away, a relic of a past obsession, its sweet, toxic scent now a memory rather than a temptation. The scars remained forever, but they no longer defined her with shame, they defined her with strength, survival, and unshakable self-love. Linda's journey became a beacon for countless women who had once chased a dangerous glow, showing them that beauty is not in the shade of your skin, but in the courage to embrace who you truly are. Through her campaigns, her talks, and the stories she shared, she inspired change. Women began speaking openly about their own struggles with bleaching, supporting each other, and learning to love themselves without shortcuts or harmful creams. Linda had turned her pain into power, her mistakes into lessons, and her scars into symbols of resilience. Her story was no longer just hers, it belonged to every woman who had felt pressured to alter herself for acceptance. And in the quiet moments, as she applied her healing cream and looked into the mirror, she smiled, knowing she had survived, healed, and helped others survive too. If you've watched Linda's journey and learned something from her story, remember, your worth is not measured by skin tone or the likes you get online. True beauty comes from self-love, resilience, and the courage to say no to what could harm you. Stay tuned for more real, powerful stories that teach, warn, and inspire. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. There's always a lesson waiting to change your life.